All right, and April 2021, the oil markets have they hit $68 WTI, and came down to about 58, dropped $10. Now we're at, hovering around 60, 62, and no one seems to really know what's going to happen here. This is a big, big, big convergence of push and pull factors here, and it's difficult to say exactly what's going to happen in the short term. Longer term, you keep hearing second half 2021, which at the end of the day, we're trading June contracts, so we're basically there. You hear the second half, things are going to really tighten up, and you also hear the same thing about 2022. Things should really be tightening up. But as far as where we're at now, uh, the futures curve is showing backwardation, pretty steep, and it doesn't look like that's going to play out, right? So the tightening is not reflected in the price. We are right now facing a tightening supply. Global inventories have been tightening, and the last of the glut apparently is being drained out approximately 1 year after oil prices went negative. The sentiment is still a little bit shaky. Um, you're hearing that the recovery is already kind of being priced in. It's one of those jobs where people are saying, well, the demand recovery is already being priced in, and therefore, for the United States at least, and therefore it's only leaving room for disappointment. And on the other end, the demand is actually coming back. It is coming to fruition. But you still, as the vaccines roll out, so that whole narrative is playing out to be true. But you still don't know what's going to happen with these new cases in India. One of the biggest importers of oil in the world. If they're going to have lockdowns and be a temporary drag on oil markets. And just today they're talking about possibly letting American tourists back to travel to Europe. So it's still like some uncertainty here in the air as far as the pace at which the coronavirus is going to go away, because it seems like we're going to be hearing about this into next year. But perhaps it'll just be the countries that didn't have the vaccines, access to the vaccines. But as far as oil consumption goes, the bulls would say, listen, the vaccine story is playing out, and it's a success. And so 1 billion vaccines have been given thus far. It's like 1 in 6 people, 1 in 7 people in the world, or something like that. So it's just a matter of time before these vaccines get to everyone. And considering that the coronavirus has been the biggest mover of prices next to the shale and OPEC stories, and the shale drillers are now showing discipline, and the OPEC um, parties are no longer fighting, quarreling, and seem to be in favor of steady, keeping a pretty tight lid on the oil markets. That leaves really the wild card being more of the lockdown coronavirus story, and it's tough to say what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. But if you look at the longer term, multiple month chart, it looks like the markets are not only pricing in the tightening of the oil markets, but possibly running into a deficit as far as where we're headed now. But the futures curves are saying that things are going to ease up. But if you look at it from the perspective of people accumulating long positions like hedge funds, they're probably pricing in a deficit. So tough to say what's going to happen short term, but I'd still stick with the more bullish of the calls as always. Looking for, if I were to make a call now, my calls have been correct. Everyone was saying 50 to 60. I'm saying 60 to 70. I don't think we're going to see 75 WTI in 2021. I think that it's going to be in like the high 60s or maybe 70. But I don't think it's going to go into the. I don't think it's going to be 75. Maybe 72, somewhere around there. And then next year, I would expect 75, 85. So let's see what happens with all these factors. Let's hope Russia doesn't. There's a lot of things that need to happen. You know, the Iranian oil situation and the Russians. The Indian coronavirus situation. But I don't know. It's got to be bullish. USA is getting 1 in 4. I think has the vaccine, and this is my biggest case for being a bull right now. I think they said it was 92 or 93 million barrels of oil demand is back per day. You have that with all these travel restrictions and all these, all this airport traffic still way down. What happens when that comes back? Um, to me, it just seems like that demand is going to come back sooner than the barrels that OPEC withheld are going to come back. So the oil markets are real sensitive. They could spike, they could crash fairly easily. But if you've got an ever tightening supply, then all it's going to take is a couple weeks of being too slow in the case of OPEC to release more barrels for you to see some price adjustments, some aggressive price adjustments like 10, 15, 20%. So it's so hard to call what's going to happen here, but I gotta lean in the favor of the bullish case once again. Gotta lean in favor of headed toward low 70s in 2021 WTI. Watch.